Greetings, everyone. Happy Friday, and thank you for joining me on Turning a Moment into a Movement. I am Jay Love. I'm your host, and I also represent the Justice for Gerard Movement. Gerard is my son, who was wrongfully convicted of a crime he didn't do, innocent, and he went to prison for that crime. And because of that journey with Gerard, meeting so many other people in my community that also were impacted by a wrongful conviction, I created this platform to come here on Fridays to speak on wrongful convictions and injustice. My goal was to bring information to my community and my friends and my neighbors and family about wrongful convictions and justice. So what happened to me wouldn't happen to anyone else. So we come here and that's what we do. I want to say our mission is to bring awareness to the wrongful convictions of Gerard and all others who are wrongly convicted, overly sentenced, mentally ill, medically frail in our community, to inspire, organize, and educate all communities about the needs to disrupt systems, policies, and patterns of the criminal legal system that leads to wrongful convictions. So that's our mission that we have, and that's our goal every week. So thank you for joining us. I never get to say this, but I want to say thank you for those who are watching on Facebook, those who are watching on Instagram, hello. Those who are watching on YouTube. And we were on Twitter, but I just found out today. I guess Elon Musk done changed some stuff, so we're not live on Twitter. But you can also listen to us for those who listen to the replay or want to listen to us audio. We're on all podcast streaming platforms. So thank you for joining us. We ask you to share because our goal is to reach as many people as possible so we can get out this information. So just please share. Tonight, as we wait on Reverend Tia and Attorney Matt to come in, one of our guests is here, and I want to bring him in to introduce himself and let you know about what he's doing and what he's been doing. And he is not, he's like a family. He's not even a guest anymore. He's a part of our family. So whenever he's free, we love for him to come on. And so I want to welcome Mr. Abdul. Hi.
Hi, Tia. Thanks for that introduction, and I'm pleased to be here. Yeah, consider you all family too. I'm just wondering when you're going to start charging me rent for all the space.
Never. So introduce yourself and let our community know what it is that you do, and also how they can get in contact with you if they need your services.
I'm a paralegal in the Detroit area. I do primarily general civil practice like family litigation and employment law. I don't have my own website. I'm an independent contractor, so I contract my services out to attorneys in the area. So the best way to reach me would be by cell phone is 313 300 1876.
Yes. So what's been going on with you, Mr. Abdul?
Well, other than, I don't know. I'm like 2 years away from retirement. I've been seriously considering.
Really?
Now, yeah. I'm thinking about taking an early retirement and start exploring some better adventures in life than all this stressful.
I know that's right.
28 years. I'm about ready to call it a break. I'm seeing so much I don't like more now than I did ever before. So,
Yeah.
I'm just busy working, and I still enjoy what I'm doing, even with the falls and stuff. You get back up and you keep trying, and I still have the energy for it. I just I'm considering doing something more voluntary works and with my retirement and stuff, and just want to do some traveling too. So
Well, I understand because this is hard work.
It
Uh,
is.
Emotionally, it takes a toll on you. So I understand taking a break. We all need a break, but
Mhm.
we'll miss you. So we also need your voice. So hopefully, you know, but breaks and self care is necessary. We talk about that often here. Um, if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't care of anybody else. So
Right. That's
you
true.
got to take care of yourself first.
Mhm.
Well, I'm so glad that you're with us tonight. Attorney Mack, he let me know that he was in another meeting, so he should be popping in soon. And Revatia should be popping in soon. But we have our other guest in, so we might as well let her come on and introduce herself. This is a first time guest. She has views the show often. I know her from our community, our Transform and Love community. And she's a bit of a revolutionary. So I wanted Revatia to really introduce her, but Revatia hasn't came in yet. But I'll bring her in. Greetings, Armithia.
Hi, hi, Jan. Hi, Mr. Abdul.
Hi, pleased to meet you. I think I used. Oh, this is your first time here.
Yeah, I made comments in the chat because I
Oh,
can't keep my mouth closed, so I just
oh,
yeah.
I gotta learn that habit. Keep my mouth closed.
But I'm Armithia Sims, and I'm retired, so I understand. But I worked. I was 73 years old. I'm 78 now, and so retired from the public schools, and I went into contractual therapy for like 14 years after that. And so, if you're ready to retire, take my advice. One morning, I just woke up and said, "Okay, God, I'm ready to stop." Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
but my background is in uh, family work and counseling and therapy. I started out in Washington County Juvenile Court. Matter of fact, Attorney Mack was in the public defender's office, and he did have a reputation. Boy, he was a tough guy, and well, we respected him. And I went from juvenile court to the public schools to run a student assistance program in the Ann Arbor schools. And then when I retired from there, like in 2000, 2001 or so, I did go live in Chicago for almost 2 years
Oh, I love Chicago.
because I wanted to study art. And I went to the Chicago Institute of Art, but I substitute taught. And when they saw my resume, they put me in the roughest schools you could go into Chicago. And then I came back to Ann Arbor, back to my family and friends.
Oh,
And I worked at Livonia Counseling Center, doing mental health and substance abuse work with mostly people who are court ordered into therapy. And I did that to 2018. And then I retired. And I left Michigan and moved to Virginia because I have a family down here. And but I do miss a lot of my friends. But I would just say most of my background is working with what we label as high risk population.
oh, yeah.
Okay, so what is Armithia considered high risk?
Well, that's according to the courts. Well, when I was in the schools, the high risk kids were the kids who were failing, the kids who were drug use, kids who were fighting, those who the teachers just didn't know what to do with them and sent them down to the counseling department. And the counselors, the regular guidance counselors, are so busy. So student assistants work like employees assistants. You know, how you have an employee who's got a drug problem or getting in trouble, rather than fire them, you send them to employees assistants. And that's what the schools would do to me. Initially there were 4 of us doing this type of work, and I. The truth is, I was the only Black person. The other 3 were white, and I think that they thought that I could show all the Black kids who were using drugs. And what happened? The truth is, the opposite happened. I had a lot more white clients than I had Black clients, and the truth is, most of them were upper middle class to upper class. I had millionaire student kids. I did support groups. I, got them to the right agencies in the community for help. And it wasn't easy because you get parents who are doctors and lawyers and everything. They say, they say you got your nerves trying to tell me what to do with my kid,
Mhm.
and what I tell people, it's not a matter of income. I've worked we're having taught in Chicago, having worked in juvenile court, and it covers all economic levels. These issues covers all in the economic levels. Just one group can pay the bill easily, and the other group may struggle to pay. But the family issues are the same.
Mhm.
And I said because I worked with every economic group, and Livonia's got very wealthy people too. I think that's one reason
Right.
he hired me, is because I had that experience from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and maybe people who are not from Michigan may not know that that's a pretty wealthy city. Okay, and
Right.
and the kids were wonderful though, all of them. I enjoyed working with the kids, and that's when I said, I don't know if the problem is the kids, maybe the problem is the adults, because
Right.
they want to help, and families want you to save their kid, but keep the family secrets.
Mhm.
Those secrets. And
Because I mean,
one thing, then I'll shut up. What I've always been learned, and I see this in our politics today, is when you don't understand why something is happening, and I'm sure, Mr. Dewar, you probably know this too. When you are working with people, and you say, "Well, why is this happening?" I don't understand. Even with politicians, what's going on? I was always taught to look for the hidden agenda, look for what's not said.
yes.
And that is what's going on in politics now, also in this country, and with our families. And if you get people in positions who are willing to let you keep those unsaid things down or secret, then then you vote for them. If you don't, you don't want it, you don't want the truth told.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we voters need to do a better job about educating themselves, especially with this technology. Everything is really at your fingertips, and but you're right. There's a lot of hidden agenda, especially with politicians. Oh my God, you know. They, I pretty much gave up on the democratic system in 2000 when the Supreme Court said, "Okay, yeah, Bush, you get the White House." It was a mess, but it's been downhill since then. But the short end of it all is I don't trust any of them, Democrat, Republican. I just don't. I don't have faith in the political system any more than I do the legal system.
Well, I also, what I've learned, I'm 70 years old, like I said, not like I'm real old, but 78, is there's a thing that we don't address in this country too much, because uh, we stay so divided on the level of what we call the have-nots. I really see
Mhm.
it as a have and have-not thing more. And also, when you get anybody who bring the have-nots together, like Dr. King, for instance, or Fred Hampton, they're out of here, And
Mhm.
reason I say that is, if we look at the current climate, um, I don't want to get J Love, you, if I'm straying, you bring me back.
No, you go ahead. I'm at the
Two things happened this week that I learned about. With one was J.D. Vance being picked by VP, and I'll talk about that now. Now, J.D. Vance is from my hometown of Middletown, Ohio.
Mhm.
Uh, he's 40 years younger than me, so by the time he came along, I had even left the city. My husband and I moved to Michigan after he got a job teaching in Eastern Michigan, but it was a very segregated town in which I grew up in, and I read his book Hillbilly Elegy, and that's before he was he was anti-Trump first, and now he's pro-Trump. But in the book, he makes it clear that coming from that hillbilly background, and they use the word, so we could say hillbilly. We used to say Appalachian, but a lot of people in our city came from the Kentucky area to work in the steel mill, which his family did.
Mhm.
People all in our neighborhood worked at Armco Steel. My father worked at the local paper company. And so we had a lot of what we might call Appalachian people, even in our neighborhood. But there was one side of town that he was on that was mostly all Appalachian, where J.D. Vance family lived. But he made it clear in his book that culturally it was difficult for him because he, they're taught great loyalty to their family. Heal people stick together. That's what Glenn Close said in the movie, because I watched the movie too. And it's true. Heal people stick together. And that's why you get the Hatfields and the McCoys thing in history because of that. And so he had that loyalty and love for his family, but at the same time, he was very smart in school and he got a full scholarship to Yale. And that was, a different cultural environment when he went to there. And so he was always torn between moving up and still keeping his connection to his hillbilly culture. He tells the story of going into a filling station, I think it was, to get some gas, and had a Yale t-shirt on. And a lady said, this white lady said, "Oh, do you go to Yale?" And he didn't even want to admit it. So that's always been a torn spot for him. He may have gotten over it now. That was in the book, and he married a lady whose heritage is from India. And so I don't know. I said, well, maybe he went pro-Trump because my hometown went pro-Trump. And the makeup of Middletown is a lot of blacks and what we would call working class white people. When I was growing up, they just, racially termed, people said pro-whites, and Negroes, or that's the kind, because we didn't get into black, then colored people, colored people. That's what we were growing up to. Right. And it was quite segregated. I couldn't go swimming at the nearest pool because nearest pool at our house was whites only. Okay. And then there was the black one across town, and you had to go through a white working class neighborhood called Medellin to get there if you were walking. And it was in Cloverdale. Cloverdale was more of just the little upper class blacks with a little better homes. I don't know if I want to say middle class if they were that, but they were working class. Our neighborhood were people who were working, but they were poor. My dad worked in the paper company, but we lived in a 4-room house. They raised 9 kids in a 4-room house.
Wow.
When I was born, I had brothers. I was born in 1945. I had brothers fighting in the war. But and this changed over the years, but it was quite segregated then. I remember going into Gallagher's drugstore, and I was a little kid, maybe 6, and saw people sitting at the counter eating. And I told my mom, I said, "Can we get something to eat?" And she said, "Wait a minute." She paid for some stuff. And then we were walking out. I said, "We're not going to eat." She said, "I'll get you something over the 10-cent store." The 10-cent store was a store called Murphy's. It was across from Gallagher's Drug. And they had a hot dog stand. So she took me in the hot dog into the Murphy's and got the hot dog stand because we could not sit at that counter. And the reason I tell people I could tell you all these kind of stories is because this is my lifetime. People think, "Oh, that's segregation. That's in the South." I grew up in Ohio. Okay?
Yeah, right. It wasn't just in the South.
And even when in high school, when they voted for homecoming queens, we could vote and everything, but the faculty always picked the black candidate, and she was always light-skinned black girl. Okay. I think Jan, right. I'm talking about the colorism. They always picked the light-skinned one. Yeah. We had one black teacher in the whole school the whole time I was there, and she was so light you weren't sure she's black when you saw her, but she was a top teacher, taught honor students. And she also went to the college I went to, Miami University. And she told us that when she went to Miami University, blacks couldn't even live on campus. You could go to school there. But Miami University is down the road from Middletown in Oxford, Ohio. But it was, I can remember the Klan. If something happened, they would run through the neighborhoods. This was after I was in college. A white boy got shot at a nearby neighborhood. And the Klan was just... a lot of them came out of Lebanon, Ohio, which is right next door to Middletown, and was shooting through the neighborhoods. And the cops didn't stop them. But my brother-in-law, some of the black guys, went to the cops and told them, "Hey, we're not going to let this happen. We're going to be waiting for them when they come back." They didn't come back. So I guess the cops did something then. But that's the environment, and not that it's, I don't say it's a bad town, because every town have their racial problems, but it was controlled by one family who owned the steel mill. How the town was run, matter of fact, was chose All American City at one time. Okay, which tells you a lot. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and blacks, you would say they had good jobs at the steel mill, but so many guys had health problems from working in that steel mill all their lives, and when either had bad health when they retired or died not long after they retired.
Mm-hmm.
And so in your background, and J.D. Vance, his neighborhood, that's why most of them came there from Kentucky to work the steel mills, and his neighborhood was the Appalachian whites,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't that we didn't get along or anything. Like there were some in our neighborhoods, and we played together. Until we got maybe in junior high, and I remember telling my grandmother that my friends, that when we get to school, the white kids who were our neighbors, because I didn't label them poor white, but that's what they all of a sudden didn't want to have so much to do with us anymore. And my grandmother explained to me, she said, you all are getting to the age where you all can start liking each other. And boys and girls, everything, okay, you can play together while you're little. But when you become teenagers, you start eyeing each other. And she explained that to me. And she said, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Then we had the Highlands, which were the wealthier whites. And you only seen black people in that neighborhood if they were maids or servants working. My dad used to go out there to wash the car of the Gardner family. They owned the paper company that he worked for. He drove a crane there, which people said was a really high job for a black man to have. But my father was extremely fair because his granddaddy was a white man, okay, and his daddy was fair. So both my great grandfathers on my maternal side and paternal side are white men, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another whole story.
Yeah.
But it's just that I was just mentioning that when people look at J.D. Vance and you look at his background.
Yeah.
A friend of mine who's very political, he's a friend of my older brother's who's very politically active in that part of Ohio, really just texted me recently and said, this is a dangerous man.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's what he said. He said, this is a dangerous man. So I looked up, Forbes said that what is the group, the Heritage Foundation, that Vance is their pick.
Yeah. And we're going to get into that tonight because he's their pick. And so I made a post this week and I was talking about Project 2025, and someone said, why are you talking about that when Trump said he has nothing to do with it? And Agenda 47 is his policy for, his upcoming, if he gets elected the president, right? So what people don't understand is these people from Project 2025 worked for Donald Trump during his last administration as president, right? And I mean, they've been in the Heritage Foundation, and we talked about this last week. I think it's all started like the end of Nixon, the Reagan era, when they started doing stuff, right? Pushing their agendas. And so during Trump presidency, the Heritage Foundation, he implemented many of their policies. Mm-hmm. He followed the things that they were talking about. And not only that, the people that he picked for Supreme Court, they picked those people.
Yes.
They gave their, viewpoint of who. So he does follow them. So when people say, well, that's not what Trump, he says, no, because Agenda 47, if you really get into it and look at it, a lot of it is Project 2025. He just put his little bits and pieces in there.
But Trump lies also. He that's why he didn't have to mess up with statistics like Biden did, because he doesn't have to remember statistics because, they said he lied almost 30 times. And so why should he tell the truth about 2025 if,
Right.
But there's a documentary you may have heard of it I put online called Bad Faith. It just came out in
I
2024.
heard about it too.
And I didn't realize till I read the background of the Heritage Foundation that Paul Raytrich, I think you said Rayrich, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was one of the early founders of the movement that led to the Heritage Foundation, but he's also in Bad Faith. They tell the background. They talk about him influencing the Reagan administration and all his colleagues, but he started the Heritage Foundation, and Bad Faith it's about white national Christianity, white Christian nationalists. And they started long before Reagan. They take it back to Reconstruction and the Ku Klux Klan. That's when white Christian nationalism started and bring it up to this date. And the thing about it, a lot of the parties are still the same. It's just that they didn't have technology and computers. Climate change was not the issue. They've taken the same agenda and brought them into each decade. Remember during President Wilson's administration, about 1914 or 15, about 10,000 Klansmen marched down Pennsylvania Avenue because Wilson, was racist. And so so I'm just saying you have to remember that this is part of our history.
Right.
But the thing is, to add a positive note, in some ways, they haven't really won because they keep on trying, okay?
Yeah.
They keep on trying. But what gets to me is that I wanted my kids, I got arrested in college demonstrating. I wanted my kids to not have to do what I did, or especially my grandkids now to not have to go this. And how long do we have to do this stuff?
Right. And what was you protesting, Amithia?
Oh, okay. That's another thing. It was the Vietnam War protest. And the black kids and the white kids didn't have exactly the same reason for protesting. We were against the war, but we made it clear to reporters and then the disciplinary committee, because we got thrown out of school, but we got back in. The black kids at least got back in. Some of the white kids ran for the border because the people who broke the lot into the ROTC building where we demonstrated, they filed charges against. But I did go to jail, but it was just for like overnight. Okay. And what it was, we protested genocide because of the number of black men that were dying, way out of proportion to the population. And I knew some of them. And one young boy from our neighborhood, had been our paper boy, was killed over there. And I said, oh, I don't know if he could have found Vietnam on the map, because I in college barely knew where it was. Yes. And see, this gets back to the justice system. His mother told my mother that the reason he went to Vietnam, this shooting had happened. Remember I told you about the Klan shooting, because the shooting had happened in a nearby teenage nightclub, and a white boy was shot by a black boy, and so they were looking for it, and they picked this boy up. They later found the boy who really did it, but when they couldn't prove that this boy had done it, rather than just let him go, the judge gave him the option: we'll drop your case if you go into the military. Okay, you go to trial or you go to the military. Which one you want? So he went in the military, and he was killed in Vietnam.
Wow.
And I was already against the war, but that sent me like, okay, to really have an attitude about it. And then we had, I'll say, I don't want to mention a lot of people, but I'll say this guy's name because he's a hero, Clemmy McKinney. He was Air Force ROTC officer at my university, and he was a little older and mature than the rest of us. Sometimes he had an African wife, and Clemmy was studied to be an airline pilot, and he was killed flying over Hanoi. It was a black guy, killed flying over Hanoi, and just all these stories coming, and then Life magazine printed a Week's Dead and all these black faces. And so we got together with the Black Student Access Association, which I was part of, And our president, I'll say his name, Larry Clark, because he became a filmmaker, and he was the one that told us about bad faith because he's a friend of the guy who made the film. And Larry Clark, we had a meeting with the Students for Democratic Society. Have you heard of them? At that time, they were considered very radical by the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
And their leader's name was Dusty Statler. And the black kids met with some of the what we call the hippie white kids now, and planned a demonstration for the administration building. But we ended up having one before when we planned happened. And I can't remember what Dusty asked Larry for us to do, but I remember Larry said, "No, we won't do that thing." He said, "We're going to do this and this and this. We won't do that." And Dusty said, "Why?" And Larry said, "Because you can cut your hair and become just like your father and grandfather. I will always have this black skin." And that has stuck with me now because due to the fact that we're where we are now, I'm not talking about Dusty personally. I don't know exactly what happened to him, but where we are now, that's what I see, because we thought with the white kids all revolutionary and standing up for us, that, okay, times are changing, it's getting better and everything. But now I ask, well, did they cut their hair and become like their fathers and grandfathers then? That's my question now, because look at where history repeating itself.
I was going to ask you, Armithia, like, what is your, you experienced the protesting in college and all that. What are you looking at what the kids are doing today in regards to protesting? What do you think is that's like history repeating itself again?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's
that brutal. It's what
I
they
don't know
were
if it's
doing
affected now because sometimes people don't see. I mean, they arrest people, but I don't know if it's affecting policy so much. But I think I'm gonna tell you what I think. Why they brought what with Vietnam out, and this is just my opinion. Okay, they were drafting people left and right. And people maybe not like it, but college used to give you an exemption. After a while, no, they took them out of college. They started drafting, and then that's when the campuses all across the nation burst into fire when they start pulling the kids out of college, sending them to Vietnam. And okay, so you're getting a different class of students then. And about a couple of weeks after after we were arrested, because Miami, we only had about 65 black kids on campus, so only 7 of us were arrested. After we were arrested, a couple of weeks after that, the Kent State shootings happened. Do you remember that?
In Ohio, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure Attorney Mack does too. The kids who were shot, I think, weren't even demonstrating. They were walking in class, but the National Guard just opened fire on them.
Yeah,
right.
Well, they had the National Guard stationed outside of our campus. And one of my friends from Middletown, and she was a white female, told me her boyfriend at that time was in the National Guards. He wasn't a student at Miami University, and he was one of the National Guards and brought outside the campus. They stationed him outside, but our president wouldn't let him come on campus. But he did let the local county police and the state police come on. And her boyfriend told her he was glad that the President Shriver did not let them come on because he said all those guardsmen we're talking about is beating in the heads of those spoiled college kids. Mm-hmm. He said they were standing in front of their officers even, and nobody corrected them and said how they had to be. So he was glad that they weren't allowed to come to campus. A few weeks later, what happened? Kent State happens, and these college students are killed. And when they arrested us, I sent Tia a picture of my arrest and my roommates. And there's one kid who was headed for the Olympics on the Olympics team, and he couldn't go for participating in that demonstration. We lost all our financial aid. We were kicked out of school. Okay. And what they did was start having disciplinary hearings to decide who would get back in school. But we had a few black professors. When I first started, they only had 1 or 2, but they went to the black schools and recruited some of them. and they stood 100% behind us. Okay. And even white professors gave money to get the black kids out first. They really didn't want to arrest us. They had arrested mostly all the white kids. A few were left behind us. And so what we thought, it was me and one of my college roommates. I was there, and the first name was Donna, but Donna and I were only two females. The rest of them were guys, the black guys. And we hooked up because we figured they took those white kids, they were pulling them out by the cops was pulling those white kids by their long hair across the floor, and they were beating them. And so we thought if they're beating them, they might kill us. But we decided that we would lock arms and that we would all go out down together. And then they brought in the provost and a couple black staff to talk us out of it. They said to us, the provost said to us, the dean said to us, look, this has nothing to do with you guys. This is not your fight. And you could get up and leave now, nothing would be done. But we knew once they touched us, it was a civil rights issue because the civil rights bill had, I think it had passed at that point. It was on that. Well, we knew that it was a civil rights issue. And they didn't want to arrest us, but we would not leave. We stayed. And then so then the dean waved to the state police like that to come on and get him. But first, the black staff, I remember, and I'll say his Larry Young, Henry Wilkins, and Ken McDowell. They had started the minority students office then. And first, it was called Black Students Office, and they changed to Minority Students Office. They worked in administration, and they said this, you may lose everything doing this. Mm-hmm. And Larry Young said, you all are determined to do this, aren't you? We said, yes, sir. Yes, we are. And all the black staff, they took they balled their fists up and gave the black power signal and said, right on. And that's when the dean called in the state police to arrest us. And when they got us outside, they pulled us apart. We saw the newsreel later, some of us were doing the black power, and they knocked our hands down. And they piled us into jail. We had to go into the male jail because there were so many students arrested. It wasn't enough room in the female jail. And so some of us were put in the jail with the men. And we spent the night there. And the next day, a couple of black graduate students came and got us out because they said faculty had given them money to get the black students out. And I guess maybe some white students were got out too. They were calling parents. But so it took a few days for everybody to get out, but we were expelled. And some of us got back in. I got back in. And we had to figure out how to get our own money, but I had good grades there. And so I got some money for what they called the Martin Luther King Scholarship. But, but when I left campus, I didn't know if I was going to get back in or not, because I left to take a job working with migrant workers in upstate New York until I was going to student teach in Cleveland that September, because this happened in April, in a special program that trained people for the inner city. And so when I left, I didn't know if they were going to let me back in or not. But I got the American Civil Liberties Union came to the campus and represented us. Oh, and I got a letter from the American Civil Liberties Union while I was working upstate New York with migrant children that my university had backed down and that we could return to school. And so I wouldn't student taught in the fall. And some people to this day still have anger at my university. I found out for those expulsions. I don't know. Some of the white kids ran for Canada because the university was going to charge them and put them away because they broke the lock into the ROTC building. I hadn't planned to do that. We had another demonstration plan with the SDSers, but this happened before. Some of them, I think that was part of that group. I'm not sure. Well, they broke into the building, and I was coming from a class that evening, and all this music was going on, and all these kids were dancing inside and outside the RTC building. This football player I knew had this conga drum out there in the front playing, and they was partying. And I went past, and I ran home to the door to put my books down because I was going to go back and party with them. And when I came back, I think if they had left the students alone until middle of the night. They probably all went back their dorm with the sleep. But they sent some ROTC students in to tell us to get out and that the police was going to be called. And when the dean and came and everything, and the police came, that's when it became, everybody locked hands and start sitting down. That's when it became a demonstration.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like I said, at least I only was in there for one night. Many people were, you know, get a lot more jail time than that. But the ACLU did expunge it from some of my records, got expunged from my records, so people only knew if I told them.
Mm-hmm.
But then it came out when I had to go work in juvenile court. I had to have total security check, okay? But it never kept me from getting a job. It never.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's powerful history, Amithia.
Yeah.
Because everything you said, it's like I'm listening to you, and then I'm seeing like what's going on today,
Mm-hmm.
right? With the students and all this stuff with this election. It's like a full circle moment, you know, with, you know, what's going on in the world today.
Yeah, that's Attorney Mack is here. I was Attorney Mack. I probably don't remember me, but do you remember the Cope O'Brien Center in Washtenaw County?
Absolutely.
Well, I was a counselor there for almost about 10 years under Every Marvellis. And Nate Reed.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sister, what is your last name?
Sims. I was the only Black counselor there for a while, but I've heard of you when you were in the public defender's office, and I told Jay, I said, I can remember people were saying, "Oh, he's tough now," but they showed you respect. And I had left in 1988-89 to go to take a job in the public school system.
Okay.
But I worked with Nate Reed and Every Marvellis and Tim Marvellis. Tim Marvellis was part of the
absolutely.
You Gladys Byers,
right? Remember Gladys Byers, Steve Dixon.
Yes, Steve Dixon, definitely.
Yeah. Tom, you know, Steve passed.
Okay, yeah, I figured that.
You know,
yeah.
And you remember Tom Fleming from Over in Detention?
Okay, yeah. All these names come. There was a Sharon too. I can't think of her last name.
Sharon Newton.
Newton, yeah, because she became, I think, president of the NAACP, and
you know, Sharon Newton and you know, L. Dudley from Over in Detention.
Yes, you bringing back all these names now.
Yeah. Well, you know, he passed.
Okay, yeah, I think a lot of people are gone. I think every Marvellis has even gone.
Yeah. I heard that. And you know, it's so interesting though. Look, J Love. You know, Black folk and our Arabic brothers and sisters too now. Let's see, people of color. When we get to hello, Abdul, how you doing, man? Okay.
Yeah, I can relate.
Okay, I know you can. You know, see. So what I'm saying, but J Love, allow me to say this one little thing here. Talking to the sister right here. You know, L. Dudley, big burly cat. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I remember one time, my office, I was a juvenile public defender, right? And you know where detention was. You got to go through them security doors to get through detention to come up there. I remember one time it was about 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting at my desk writing, right? You know, and all of a sudden, and the door was open. All of a sudden, it was like, I said, "Is it finna to rain?" You know, I thought it was sunshine. I looked up. L. Dudley was in the doorway blocking the sunlight. And so,
he's a big guy. I tell you who they were scared of. They were Gladys.
Yeah. She was a real firecracker. But let me just tell you this quick story about L. Dudley. Okay, you know, L. Dudley, a big, you know, burly, strong guy. You know, and so you know, L. Dudley's the kind of guy that you know could break you with his hands like a twig. You know, a big guy, right? Why me? For some reason, my day is not started till I make a point to go to detention and provoke that man. And so you know, hey, it was like a little monkey trying to hit a python on the head with a rock. And and sometimes, and you know, just a little bit of history about myself. We had a lot of success in juvenile court because a lot of kids, disproportionately Black, I might add, you know, were being run roughshod over by, like, the sheriff's department in Washtenaw County was the main perpetrator, right? And so sometimes then kids would be caught up in detention, And we're trying to change that now. Instead of putting kids in detention, take away from their home and try to find alternative ways to stay to the family. So anyway, sometimes we get a not guilty verdict, and L. Dudley would come to my office and say, "You ain't done nothing but made wrong right." But anyway, yeah.
I guess if we could only take so many kids, and I think we had success because the numbers were low. In the Cope O'Brien Center. But I told Reverend Tia, one thing I learned is that one problem with the justice system is like we're standing, like if you've seen people standing on the cliff, jumping off the cliff, and those who want to help, we're standing down trying to catch it. Nobody's on, at least not enough people on the other side to prevent them going to the edge of the cliff.
Right.
Because people don't want money spent in that direction.
Right.
They rather spend to get into this Christian nationalism again. It's too much things, not just talking about hate, but Christian nationalists, what they talk about? Punishment, condemnation, revenge. That's what I see, how I see Christian nationalists. Nobody talks about Christ's love, forgiveness, and
they talking about death penalty
now. But several years ago, I saw that the average cost to keep one man in prison was $50,000 a year. Now, some states it's lower, some states it may be higher. But I feel like this country would rather put that $50,000 a year, and think if a person did 20 years, how much money you spending on them. They'd rather put that there than put it on them on childhood programs, or put it on programs to teach us how to get along, and overcome. And that's always been the sore spot for me. Everybody, that's too much money, too much taxpayers' money. Well, we don't worry about the politicians wasting our money, do we?
No, that's right.
Point. Hey, Reverend Tia.
Right. Hey there. Look, I didn't even know my mic was on. Look, what a day. I'm so excited. You know what? God knows when you're too excited about a show, then it's a test. The test comes up. Like, oh my God, I hope I pass the test today. I am so glad to be on. I will have my face on shortly, but I'm so glad to be on tonight and just listening to everybody. And oh my goodness, this is like my highlight because we're educating. And I was so excited about Armethea, and I knew she knew Attorney Mack. And of course, my brother here, when I knew he was coming on, I always get excited because that's the fire. I like to have the fire on the show. Somebody who's gonna go ahead and get with somebody, break it down. So I want to say that I love hearing Armethea because right now with this 2025 project 2025, they're so original with their ideas. Anyway, you got these 19 authors, and that's all y'all got to come up with. It's just surprising that how you would think we would have evolved with humanity and with the variations and gotten it by now. Like there's no one kind of bird. There's no one kind of fish. There's no one kind of flowers. And yet people still want one kind of human being. It just seems like on some level of humanity, we have reached a plateau of intelligence that is just mind-boggling. So I look at the plan, the project, in that, especially with this one, if you go to a public school, now you all got to check this out. If you're in public school, you have to register for the draft.
Yes, we got a whole video on that, Reverend.
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, but they did this. Listening to Armethea, remember they did it before. It was mandated. But listen, for public school, if you go to a private school, you don't have to.
It's the
Okay.
have and have nots.
Right.
If you have,
Right.
you're okay. If you have not, you may be in another
Right.
Vietnam.
So what
That's
they're
right.
going to do, what they're proposing, or what their thing is they want to have school of choice, right? And public schools, you're going to take your public school voucher if you don't want to go to public school, right? And you can take it to private school or whatever. But you got to come up with the rest of that money.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Whatever the money is, let's say they give each student $9,000, but the private school is 20. You're gonna take your 9, but you're gonna have your 10 or whatever to go with it, you know. And so this, how they're doing it or what they're thinking, is gonna take away from students who can't afford,
Right.
to attend private schools. It's gonna take away all kinds of programs. I'm gonna play this video for you guys
Okay.
because I'm glad you brought that up, T. Let me play this video.
What does Project 2025 mean for our public schools? For one, it means an eradication of Title I status over the course of the next 10 years. This means that low-income schools that receive funds from the federal government would no longer get it. For example, I taught at a school where over 80% of the kids, Black, Hispanic, and white, were low income. But even still, every child had a laptop. That's because it was a Title I school. So without this Title I status, you would have fewer resources for kids, you would have larger class sizes, you would have fewer paraprofessionals and teaching assistants. It would be more difficult to fund after school programs. There would be less money for college prep programs, summer food programs, less money for free lunch and reduced lunch for kids who can't otherwise afford to have a meal at home. It also means no more federal loans for kids who want to attend college. And of course, within that, every public school student, regardless of their income status, would have to take a military entrance exam. And let's be clear, y'all, Project 2025 is not something that would be magically implemented on the day Trump takes office if he's elected. It's something they've already been in the process of implementing already. Look at the Black History bans. Look at the Black History censorship. Look at the overall censorship of anything that advocates for equity or anti-racism. Look at the DEI programs being eradicated across the country. Anything that helps our kids who have dealt with historical injustices is being thrown out. So y'all, it's imperative that we vote, but it's also imperative that we begin to or continue to organize locally with like-minded people. They have this project because they're organized. What's our project? We got to start going to school board meetings, city council meetings, county meetings. We got to continue and start to go to park district meetings, neighborhood council meetings. We have to make sure our voice is heard. Project 2025 is not something that starts at a federal level. It starts with grassroots organizing. So in order for us to effectively counter that, we got to start where we are and where we live and in our households and in our communities.
Ernest Krim. He's a historian. He teaches history. You can find him on TikTok and Instagram, and he always give out very good information. So what basically he's saying about Project 2025, the key thing that he's saying for me, when he gets down, he said we need to organize with like-minded people. We had to pay attention to local elections and vote on these local elections. This is the only way we can, because what they're trying to do is eliminate these Department of Education and bounce the stuff back to the states, right? All these, everything according to your state. Now, if you have people in your state that's like-minded, just in case Trump does get elected, you know, you can advocate for the things that you want within your state. But if you are not paying attention, you're only worried about the presidential election and not what's going on locally with your local prosecutor and judges and school board elections and all this stuff, you're going to be in a world of trouble. I listened to somebody right now and said that Tennessee is ground zero from Project 2025. Like they have implemented these vouchers things within the schools right now in Tennessee. So these things, we think in Project 2025 is going to happen just, or Agenda 47 when Trump gets elected. It's already going on. We see what the decisions they're making, these Supreme Court decisions and different things that's going on. We're already in the cycle of what their manifesto is talking about. But, so we have to have these conversations so we can get on point, so we can get organized, because they are organizing. Even though they're extreme, they're organizing.
Jay, when I start reading about Project 25, this may sound a little extreme, but maybe because, I told you when we protested the Vietnam War as genocide against Black males. But genocide came to my mind again when I looked at what is the outcome of all this. I mean, look, they got a thing where they're going to be able to raid people's houses and get them out of here. We see with Hispanic. He already on one of the Muslim bans, so I guess Muslims will be out of here too. And so I was going to say, what does that mean when they raid? What's going to happen to these people? And they don't say, and also with kids having to take the military battery test where they get out of high school. So if they implement the draft again, which the Congress had the right to do, so not only our boys will go fight wherever Trump sends them, but the girls also. There's so much.
About the girls.
Look at what I talk about, the things that are not said.
Right.
The things that are not said. What is the outcome of all this? And when I hear anybody start speaking against, whether Muslim or Jews, Hispanics, Asians, or even gay people, when they start speaking against any of those groups, I get back. I said, wait a minute, because I know I'm next. But look at Florida. Florida started with this "don't say gay" law, and then the drag queen stuff, then abortion stuff, and what happened? No Black history, no Black voting. Okay, I don't care. In the end, Black people is always. You can't tell me any situation where any group turned against any group, and we didn't eventually be the low man on the totem pole.
Right. Go ahead, Miss Abdul.
Yeah, that's why when Trump was campaigning on his hate message about his Muslim ban, I was like, he's not going to stop there. He's a misogynist. He's a racist. There's no such thing as a racist, like a selective racist. If they hate Muslims, they hate Black people, they hate Puerto Ricans, they hate women. And if you need some proof of that, look at how he treated Michigan's governor during COVID. How he treated the female mayor of Puerto Rico during Hurricane Maria. He's an extreme misogynist. He has a problem with women in authority. But like Armithia said, you have to be careful as the people who have historically been oppressed. You can't get complacent and comfortable in your zone thinking, oh, it's their problem. America is never, unfortunately, I've arrived at the point where it's never going to get over its race problem. And the problem is really at the base, the selective elite people who are in power, who are like the Federal Reserve, the white elitists. I gave up hope a long time ago that there's ever going to be true equality in this country. Now I would say we should all go back to where we came from, because this is ours. Where we shed our blood and our tears, this is ours. But my point is, you got to listen to these politicians, listen to what they don't say, like said. Because Trump wasn't just saying and he was a hypocrite, because while he was on this trip about we got to stop the Muslims from coming into this country, he was making backdoor deals with the Saudis who gave him bailout money. But when he was saying that, I was like, I hope America is listening, because he's not just going to be selective in his hate towards Muslims. He's not going to stop there. And unfortunately, that's the reality. That's the way it is since they first landed here and stole this land from the Indians. And they did what they did to the Africans when they brought them here. What they've done to my people in Puerto Rico. What they've done what they've done all over the world has caused mayhem and chaos. They've left misery and they're everywhere they've gone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's why they're not Christians. They're not Christians.
and they use Christianity as a weapon.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's face it, that's what they did when they brought the Africans here. They used Christianity and instilled in their mind that they were heathens because they believed in only one God, la ilaha illallah. But they used Christianity to justify slavery.
Mm-hmm.
In the sweet by and by.
All those things,
Well, they go for those passages. I heard Tim Scott say at a rally the other day, "Revenge is mine, says the Lord."
Oh man, look here.
I wanted to say,
That's your attorney, Matt Boyd.
Neighbor as you love yourself.
Oh yeah, ooh, girl, don't get me started. Don't get me started. Boy, look here. Look, J Love. I don't want to take over the conversation. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Look here, y'all. I apologize. I was at a meeting. I couldn't get here at 8:30. I got here a little later than what I wanted. But look here. Let me talk to all the black Trumpsters that could be listening. Let me talk to y'all, you black men, okay? Whoever you may be, Mr. and Miss America ships at sea. Learn a lesson from your boy, Tim Scott. Learn a lesson. The man was Step and Fetch It, Mr. Bojangles, Uncle Tom, Uncle Remus from, what is that, Song of the South, whatever that Disney movie was. He was all them things, the man putting that big old horse smile on people. Every time I see Tim Scott smile, look, he got a mouth of 2x4s. I'm saying, I'm serious. Every time that man smile reminds me to stain my deck. So anyway, what I'm saying is he put that in there with that bald head, just like Toby. Remember, hey, y'all remember Roots, the documentary Roots? Remember that? Yeah. They was determined to break that man's name from Kunta Kinte to Toby. Okay, cut that man's foot off so he couldn't run away. And I'm saying Tim Scott, when he announced his candidate for presidency, he did it in South Carolina at Fort Sumter. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And talked about the greatness of America. And I'm saying, what is wrong with you, man? What is wrong with you? They rebelled against the United States. The South was started the war at Sumter, okay? You see what I'm saying? And he was there. Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, remember when Donald Trump said, I don't know if that was in Iowa or New Hampshire, he said to Tim Scott, you must really hate Nikki Haley. You must really hate her. And what did Captain Mellon go and do? He went up to his master and said, no, I just love you. I was through right now. Mm-hmm. I was through right then. See, Tim Scott, had he lived 150 years ago, he'd have been the one that turned in Nat Turner to them white people. Mm-hmm. See, he'd have been the one to turn in Nat Turner to yes he would, and thought that he was going to get that. Oh, and by the way, Tim, all that shucking and jiving you was doing, all that supporting Donald Trump, you didn't get no vice president, nah. See, you didn't do that. You weren't, Tim, you weren't even on the short list. See, mm-hmm. Byron Donaldson, you weren't even on the short list. Ben Carson, you weren't even on the short list. Mm-hmm. West, whatever his name is from Texas, you weren't even on the short list. See, so what I'm saying. And look here, I'm sorry, J Love. Let me just say this, I'm gonna shut up for the rest of the time. Show you where Donald Trump coming from. He picked a white boy, excuse my slandered racism, a white man from Ohio. This man ain't been a senator for about 18 months. This man ain't had no political background. But see, Tim Scott, former congressman, yes he was. Multi-term senator, yes he was. See, Byron Donaldson, congressman from Florida, multi-term, yes he was. See, so Ben Carson supported Donald Trump all up in his administration, got the nerve to make him, what was he, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development or something like that with Trump or whatever that was? Yes he was. Yeah. Look, all them men that I just cited have got more experience and political background in their little toe than the man from Ohio. So you see, so Donald Trump proving it, he believed in affirmative action. See, because he went all the way from the black people that was qualified to be a vice president and said, you know what, we need some diversity from these black folks. We gonna get J.D. Vance. Oh, a man, by the way, married to a Hindu woman. You know that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But he was the pick from the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah. See. So what? Just like Chris Rock, okay? Chris Rock. You know, Chris Rock got some babies with a black woman. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. But you see, it just goes to show you, just like in Harriet in the movies, just because you sleeping with a black or brown woman, don't mean you cool. Okay. Don't mean you cool. So now J.D. Vance is getting some backlash from them white nationalist racists who talk about how the hell you have a vice president and talk about, he for white nationalism and one of his kids is named Vavesh.
Yeah.
Anyway, y'all, racism is a disease. It's a cancer. And what to the white nationalists and the black people supporting them, it is coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's
Jay,
that thing when they came for me, you didn't say nothing?
Yeah. About talking about the Nazis. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mac, I don't think you were on when I told I can't. I'm from the same city that J.D. Vance is from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I had talked about the city. I won't, it's like any other American city, but it was very segregated. And the side of town he grew up on, is the side where poor whites grew up. His family came from Kentucky to work in the steel mills.
Right.
And I just talked about the segregation there. And in his book, I read his Hillbilly Elegy before he became a Trumpster. But
he hated Trump. That was the other thing.
Culture and moving up in the world.
Yeah.
Because they believe in sticking together. They stick together, okay?
Yeah.
He hated Trump. He talked about Trump like Trump was garbage. He made no excuses. He talked about Trump, and now he's like, so this goes on to say, hey, they all stick together when it comes to the end of the day.
Yes. His wife will be, even if she's born here, she's from an immigrant family. Though, like Mr. Abdul said, we all come from blacks and brown here, but nobody was here but Native Americans.
Right.
But they tend to not. I'm talking about the white Christian nationalists. They want you to be American. Matter of fact, we heard on TV one of them say one day Jesus was an American. Now I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
They killed him too. They killed him too. I don't even know why they say that, because they would kill him. They'd kill him again. Okay. They would have crucified him.
He was already wrongfully convicted, so he'll be wrongfully convicted again.
And he wasn't even wrongfully. He wasn't even convicted on 34 counts.
Right. That's right. And
34 counts. Yeah.
Right.
If Yeshua walked the earth again, they would crucify him again because he would not be according to the standard that they are trying to propagate throughout the country. And it's not
Yeshua was not a Christian. Yeshua was not a Christian. Okay.
No, he was not. He was not. Yeah. It's the same stuff going on in Tennessee is happening in Florida. It's happening in Texas. They've already started the project, and we've got to know that now's the time to really get community oriented and make sure you have ways of educating beyond the public school. Beyond what they're doing. We can't allow the government any longer. You can't just allow it to be the end all or the answer to everything. We've got to have answers within the home. You've got to have educational leaders that are willing to do something different in the community. So now, so what if we do go to a private school, but the private school takes the exact money that they give us? Then it'll be private school for us.
Yeah, my daughter went to Green Hills in Ann Arbor, which was private. She wanted to go there because her friends had gone there, and she got a scholarship because she scored very high on the pre SAT test. They had to take that to get in. But her dad, we were divorced at the time, but her dad paid the extra money to get in. So Jay is right. It ain't gonna be a free ride, okay?
Well,
Bless Love said that J.D. Vance was the head lobbyist for Purdue, the people that made opioids.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And then started that company like was Ohio Real or something like that, supposed to be dealing with opioids and all that kind of thing. Didn't do nothing. Made a lot of money. Didn't do nothing to help nobody. Okay, didn't do nothing to help nobody. Remember when he was running against Tim Ryan? Yeah. Remember when he was running against Tim Ryan for senator? Remember that? I saw one of those debates, and how he got exposed, So, but I would like to say this along with that public education piece. There's another part to that. I'm sure y'all know about this. That also is aimed against unions. Okay, that is also aimed against unions.
And he said that Sean Fain, the UAW president, should be fired. Go ahead, Attorney Matt.
Right. And see, the reason is, this all comes down to white Christian nationalism. It's almost like a compass. You turn a compass any way you want, that needle is always going to go north. Always. And what I'm saying is that this is white Christian nationalism unvarnished. It's out there for everybody to see. And what I'm saying is they don't want the unions, because unions have been, by and large, with Democrats, and Democrats, by and large, have had more social progressive programs than Republicans. By and large, diversity, equity, inclusion, George Floyd, John Lewis, which is not what white Christian nationalists are about. And I want everybody to be real clear about this. The reason that Donald Trump, he called them soldiers, suckers, and losers. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the reason Tim Scott is a sucker and a loser, the reason Byron Donaldson is a sucker and a loser, the reason Ben Carson is a sucker and a loser, the reason that whoever that black guy is from Texas is a sucker and a loser, the reason Vivek Ramaswamy is the chief sucker and loser, because they have a vision of America as a civic nationalist country, where as long as you have certain ideals, regardless of the color of your skin, you're an American. It took that white racist Ann Coulter to put that Hindu in his place. She made it real clear to him. I like some of the ideas you have. You talk real good, Vivek. You talk real good. Let me tell you something. At the end of the day, I wouldn't vote for you because you Hindu. You see, you should see the man almost turned white. The man almost turned white. So those black people that are on board with the Republicans and the MAGA movement, you don't fit in with white Christian nationalists. You don't, and you never will. So Tim Scott and them found that out, and the rest of them. But like I said, Omarosa found it out. Okay, and what's she found it out. So I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna shut up. Remember what I told you about the benefit they're gonna get? Remember that big crocodile in the lake? Remember that? And all the black ducks? The benefit Tim Scott is going to get, Vivek Ramaswamy going to get, and all the other blacks going to get, they get the privilege of being eaten last.
Well, pretty much that's what I'm saying with Project 2025. Okay, they've got what they want to implement. What is the outcome of it? They say they implement, they got that Muslims are banned, they can't come in, Hispanics are rounded up and thrown out. I don't know what they want for black people other than not teaching black history and I guess ignoring the second-class citizenship. But what is the end of all that? Okay, they're ruling. Well, what's gay people? What's going to happen to them? I'm just saying.
They want black people to forget the history. The end
product of all that? Which that's what I'm saying. That's what's not being said. But I think that's the important thing. Okay, our kids go in the military, I guess. I'm going to say, what world are they envisioning for us? All I can see is genocide. I hate to throw the word out there, but that's where I see it.
And on some level, it's already been going on. Look at all these Look at all these police shootings that's constantly they're going on so much. You can't even get on any social media platform and not see somebody shot or killed these days.
Yeah. You know,
Like,
and
I think 2024 has probably surpassed all the years before of police brutality and killings, because as soon as you hit Instagram, you're gonna see one.
yeah.
So it's going on so much we don't even talk about it no more, because it's happening all day, every day. It's like not a
It's
break.
normalized.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
we're almost being rocked to sleep until now, because we're trying to figure out who the president is. So we kind of halfway peeking, like trying to wake up. But I mean, come on, these local elections, we got to get busy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of curve the conversation a little bit because I want to get this in. But when we're talking about local elections and judges, I want to talk about Michael Jackson. What's his last name? Bouvier. The young man who was, and I'm going to play a clip from that, who was accused of killing the Jewish synagogue leader in Detroit. That was the same judge, the same exact judge on Gerard's case. The same judge that said, hey, he's going to get better health care in Jackson than he will if he stayed here in Wayne County. The same judge who said, I read all your character letters, and it was a lot. And it sounds like you are a whole different person than the person that was who was presented in court. This is the same lady. Except for she didn't have all that makeup and stuff on. She came rolling in looking like she just got out of bed late. Didn't have no lipstick on. She was just looking horrible. But she was like, you better be here on time. I don't know how she'd know if you was late, if she late, but she was late every day. And she just was horrible. And so I'm looking at this like this is the same lady. And this lady got in this position because she was appointed in the beginning by Snyder, right? Into this position. And then after that, we don't educate ourselves on these judges. We don't look at their records. We don't have no conversation because we just randomly see them. And so until we get in front of them, right? So she's just been sliding through, because when I went to this, I went to UAD Law School for, they were talking about judges and wrongful convictions. That's when I found out that most of these judges get into office through the police, their unions. And that's who votes for them, police unions and their people. And that's where they get the majority of their votes from. And so they don't have to come to us and ask us for our votes, because they already got, who their own votes tied into. And so this is how these people constantly get in office. So to see this lady again, another wrongful conviction case. How many has she had? I'm telling you, this lady is horrible. But anyway, I want to play this clip, and then Attorney Matt, this for you. Attorney Matt, we're gonna be talking to you. Hold on, we
got a reservation.
Attorney Matt, here we go. We put this on the full screen.
Don't you count it yet. Don't you count it yet. It ain't over.
Hold on, you guys.
Going to be
you funny, Attorney Matt. But while I'm getting this queued up, Abdul, you can talk about it.
Do you wanted the video first, or?
Yeah, I'm having okay, I got it. All right. We'll go back to the video.
Can't put my order in. Oh, sorry.
Well, like I said, don't y'all get the hot sauce ready quite yet. It ain't over.
Hold on, let's hurry back.
You know, the voice is not there. There are many shares.
Jay, can you all hear it?
No.
No, but I'm reading the case caption.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think you got to share the sound twice now.
Hold on, you guys.
You usually got to go up. No, because you got to share it twice through, I don't know. Sometimes you got to share again. When you share, you got to go up and make sure the sound is shared.
Hold on, you guys. Hold on. We're going to drop this out. And I'm going to let Mr. Abdul talk about it. We'll come back to the video. Go ahead, Mr. Abdul.
Okay.
Well, what happened after a 4-week trial was one of the longest murder trials in recent memory in Michigan, other than the Bob Bashar trial. As I had anticipated, the jury was going to deadlock because the case was, the evidence against this man was flimsy at best. And even despite the DNA on the sleeve of his coat being the victim's blood, before all this evidence came in and before it was all, shown on the news, I had doubts, right? I said, wait a minute, this was for a savage murder where this woman was stabbed eight times and there was a struggle. There should be there should be more than 2 specks of blood on the sleeve of his jacket. And the videos show that there was no blood on his shoes, nowhere else on him. I didn't hang my hat up on the fact that allegedly they found the victim's blood on the sleeve of his jacket. I was like, okay, well, I need more. And obviously one or more jurors, and I suspect it was split. It was a bad split because they were hung for like 4 days before the judge finally declared a mistrial yesterday. That tells me a number of things. Number one, it was more than one juror who was a holdout, whether for guilty or not guilty. But also, it also tells me that the prosecutor didn't do a very thorough risk assessment to determine whether she could get a guilty verdict beyond a reasonable doubt. She, like the police, ran with the fact that, oh, the victim's blood is on the sleeve of his jacket. Let's go. Mm-hmm. She raced off to the court, galloping with murder charges. And so here we are today. I kept up with the trial. I watched the trial. I watched videos of the trial. I watched his testimony. Let me tell you something about this young man. For a 29-year-old, he was well composed. He was sure of himself. He was confident. He didn't stumble on his testimony. And I think that carried the day with the jury also, that he came across very credible. The jury wanted to hear some explanation about that victim's blood, 2 specks of blood, by the way, that you couldn't see with the naked eye on the back sleeve of the jacket. He gave an explanation for it. And to me, it makes sense. And I'll tell you why. He testified that while he was out committing these petty crimes, breaking into cars, yes, he stumbled on her body outside her apartment where the police found her. And as most people would do, if you see a person down, I would. I think after hearing his testimony, I asked myself, would I do that? I probably would. I have done that when I'm walking and I see a drunk person or someone down. I'm not a good Samaritan, but my instinct is to do what? Walk up to him and say, hey, are you okay? That's what he did. He got no response. He did touch her. That's how he came into contact with the blood. He testified, and you can, whether you want to believe him or not, but obviously at least one juror believed him because they couldn't get a guilty verdict. And that's along the lines of what I had been saying when they first hurried off to file charges, that, wait a minute, there can be an innocent explanation for that blood on the back of his sleeve. Now, had he been soaked in blood, I would be like, sorry, bro, I can't help you. But that's not the case. So, and he testified as he reached down, he asked her, was she okay? He got no response. He touched her neck, to get a vital, and his sleeve came into contact with her body. He realized she was dead. He's out of there. And he also testified persuasively, and I'm sure the jury wanted to hear this, why didn't you call 911? And he said, matter of factly, I'm a black man out committing petty crimes. I stumble on this dead white woman. What cop would have believed me when first of all, I wasn't supposed to be in the area? And he's right. And look where I'm at today, because they insisted that I did this. And that much is true because during interrogation, they browbeated this guy. They tried to coerce him to confess. And he stood his ground. He insisted, look, I was out, I was out committing petty crimes. I don't know this woman. I didn't do this. He was mistreated during the interrogation. The officer called him a dirty motherfucker, you homeless motherfucking murderer, because he didn't give them the answer they wanted, which is, yeah, I did it. Now, he went against the advice I always give people, which is the better rule is just don't say nothing to the police. But he did well for a 29-year-old who had no experience with the criminal justice system in the interrogation room and in the courtroom. And again, evidently, he believed, he persuaded the juries of the innocent source for that blood, of the woman's blood being on the sleeve of his jacket. But the problem is the prosecutor knew this when she hurried off to the court galloping to file murder charges. She knew that was very scant evidence. But this is the attitude that they had. That, oh, there's DNA. He did it. If that's the case, on 9/11, everyone who was around the Twin Towers were suspect. Oh, they probably, everybody had DNA on them. I just don't hang my head up all the time when there's DNA evidence, because I understand there's a common sense, logical approach that, wait a minute, there can be an innocent explanation for this. And there was. And I just think it's unfair that even after the jury, let me tell you something else. When that jury was hung, when that jury said they were hung second day of deliberations, I said to myself, I said, they're not going to break that gridlock. When the jury is hung on the second day of a deliberation, that means there's a very bad split. It's not just one juror. Mm-hmm. And as I anticipated, it happened as I said. Now, what's going to happen? The prosecutor's going to make a decision whether she's going to recharge him. She probably will, because this is the arrogance. She doesn't like defeat. She doesn't like to be wrong. She doesn't care that, wait a minute, yeah, there might be an innocent explanation for the blood on this man's jacket.
So my thing, I'm gonna play the video, and then I want to say something, you guys.
What happens next is the likelihood of a retrial. There's going to be a pretrial at some point next week, but there were so many sheriff's deputies in that courtroom today just in case something happened. But because there wasn't a definitive end, there wasn't much emotion. The defense attorney says that he does not really consider this a victory, but more of a push.
As to count 2, first-degree premeditated murder?
Not guilty. While the jury found Michael Jackson Bolanos not guilty of premeditated murder, the 7 men and 5 women were deadlocked on felony murder and home invasion charges. An anticlimactic end to this chapter of prominent Jewish leader Samantha Wool's murder. Jackson Bolanos' attorney, Brian Brown, called it a head scratcher.
I guess they felt that it was not a premeditation as far as the murder, but they were deadlocked on whether or not there was a felony murder, which incorporates the home invasion first degree.
What'd you tell Mr. Jackson Bolanos to kind of keep him in the game and at least give him some kind of hope?
That the truth will come out, the truth will set him free.
How are you feeling about this?
A little bit frustrated, but I still feel kind of optimistic that at the end of the day, the truth will prevail.
Brown believes there's enough reasonable doubt to exonerate his client. Detroit police arrested Jackson Bolanos after Wool's murder last October. Investigators tied him to Wool's apartment that night and said that they found her blood on his jacket. Prosecutors also said that he lied to officers, which the jury did find him guilty of. But when Jackson Bolanos took the stand, he said he was breaking into cars nearby and discovered Wool's body outside her home. How much do you think having your defendant, your client, testify helped his case out and at least get a not guilty verdict in one of the murder charges?
I think it was helpful. I think he went up there and he told the truth. And I believe that the juror saw that he was very sincere.
Brown questions the holes in the prosecution's case and repeatedly pointed to Jeffrey Herbstman, Wool's ex-boyfriend. Herbstman initially told police that he thought he killed her, but recanted after saying he was under the influence of medication. Herbstman received immunity and took the stand as a prosecution's witness.
That was very odd and very bizarre.
How much do you think race played a factor in that?
I think it plays some type of a factor. Of course, it's always a factor. Now, was it the deciding factor? I don't know if it was the deciding factor.
But it played a role.
So Michael Jackson Bolanos, his attorney, and the prosecutors will return to the courtroom on July 25th. That's next Thursday, and that is at noon. The prosecutors will decide and discuss whether they will pursue those deadlock charges of felony murder and home invasion. What happens next is the likelihood of a
So, my thing is, how do a whole man say, hey, I killed my girlfriend? Like, and you guys give him immunity. What the hell?
What was that?
Because like the defense attorney said in closing arguments, even the prosecutor had reservations that he still might be involved. And I think that carried a lot of weight on the juries in their deliberation also. I've never seen a case where you have an alternative suspect come in and admit that he committed the murder. But by the way, I falsely confessed to it. I didn't know what I was doing. My medication made me do it. Here's another problem with that. Like the defense attorney said in closing argument, there's no scientific evidence to back that up. And they didn't bring in any expert. What's medication makes you falsely confess to murder? How absurd is that? I'll tell you what I think happened. The ex-boyfriend knew he was going to be the likely suspect.
Mm-hmm.
It's clever. So what he did was, I better go on ahead and confess, and then lawyer up and take my confession back and say, hey, I'm crazy. The medicine made me do it, because he was already talking to a lawyer. And guess what? I'm pretty sure his lawyer told him, well, under the law, they can't just charge you based on your confession without corroborating physical evidence. And sure enough, the prosecutor at the trial said that's why they dropped the charges on him, because there was no physical evidence to corroborate the ex-boyfriend's false confession. Well, you got to ask yourself, I wonder why. I'll tell you why. He's smart enough not to take his cell phone with him when he committed the murder, because the cell phone would have tracked him in the area. And he had time to get rid of his bloody clothes.
Yeah.
He think he's going to leave this? He had motive.
He's going to go home and take all the bloody clothes and the knife. They probably floating out in the Detroit River right now.
And I think he had a problem with that. Yes.
Yeah.
I think they also weighed all of that. Well, wait a minute.
And what weed did he smoke that make him confess a crime?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Marijuana won't do that. That's not going to do it.
Powerful marijuana. but
He said he smoked weed and he did something else, but whatever it was.
They can't stop blaming that on marijuana. The marijuana will not do that. You got to go with Cat Williams on Sleepy, Happy, Hungry. That's it.
Yeah, it was a combination of marijuana and wild erotic mushrooms. This is what they said. And they want us to, and they insult us because they think we're stupid. They think they can just throw this at us, and we're going to be like, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, that's believable.
I can't believe that worked though. I really.
It would not have worked for you.
Attorney Matt.
And that's what the defense attorney said. There's no scientific evidence. They didn't bring in any expert, and they want you to believe this.
Attorney Matt.
Convict him on. They want you guys to convict the wrong man on this. We got a guy who confessed. Forget the fact that they decided not to charge him. That's their problem.
Right. Yeah.
But
he confessed. He called and told on himself. He called the police on himself. Attorney Matt, how many cases have you had that weed and mushrooms made somebody confess to a crime?
I don't know, but weed and mushrooms made me enroll in law school.
And I got to admit, when I first smoked marijuana, I aced my math test. My senses were sharp.
Hey, so I don't know what y'all talking about. So,
But I'm going to confess to a murder.
Yeah.
Okay. Are y'all through? Anybody else got anything else to say?
I think what's phenomenal is that he's able to say that, and the only reason that makes it a false confession is because he says it's a false confession. Nobody else deemed it a false confession. Nobody checked it out. That is in itself amazing. And the fact, I mean, where's the investigation behind it? Who really did investigation? People don't want to work. I don't understand the lack of the duties and responsibilities that you're supposed to do when it comes to a case. And tell me, if he had that little bit of blood on him, and it definitely looks like he's not the person, so that means the person is still somewhere. So I'm asking our listeners and viewers, you got to ask yourself, does the prosecuting attorney really care? Do they care about getting the right person?
No, they just care about.
And if your answer is no, I mean, these time and time again, as far as being truthful and being real and being honest and really trying to do diligence, it just doesn't seem like it's happening. So we got to fire these people and get new people in their place. That's all I want.
As Jay said, vote locally. You got to vote.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just say one more thing before Attorney Matt take over. I just gotta say this one more thing, Attorney Matt. Those white tears would change the whole. He went in there crying.
He was crying.
And got so much compassion that he got immunity. What the hell?
It's an example of white privilege.
Yeah.
You think a black man can confess to murder and they wouldn't try to pin it on him? But the other problem is they never searched the ex-boyfriend's house. They treated it, contrast to how they treated Michael Bolanos at his interrogation.
Yeah.
The ex-boyfriend was treated as a royal king. You shouldn't think the way. Kalamazoo police were polite, kind to him, asked him if he wanted water and snacks. It was business. It wasn't, I'm interrogating this killer. It was business. Michael Jackson Bolanos, on the other hand, got browbeated, verbally abused during his interrogation because he didn't tell them what they wanted to hear. They couldn't break his will. They didn't
sound like the guy who murdered the people at the church. They took him to Burger King. Murdered 9 people. You hungry? You want a Whopper?
And the other thing, the problem is, after the murder, he was captured on video. There was no blood. His clothes wasn't bloody. You don't need an expert to know that for a crime this savage, where there was obviously there was blood all over the house in several rooms. That tells you that murder happened. The prosecutor's theory was he went in there, killed, and got right out. It took about a minute. There's blood in several rooms of the house. There's evidence of a struggle going on in different rooms of the house. And more importantly, the videos when he was captured on the videos upon leaving that area, he has no blood on the front of him, no blood on his shoes. And they also try to trip him up on his cross-examination. I think this young man did a very good job on cross-examination. I think he was keen to the fact that those are trick questions trying to trip me up to associate me with her condo. For example, one of the questions the prosecutor asked him, okay, well, while you were standing over her body, did you notice if her door was open? He answered that correctly, but not only did he answer it correctly, he answered it truthfully, because like he said, I wasn't looking in condos. I wasn't looking. I had no reason to look in her door. Had he said yes, I saw her door open, they would have said that. They would argue to the jury that puts him inside the house. He was keen enough to know that they're trying to trip me up with this question. And then the prosecutor asked him again, well, did you notice anybody running out of her apartment? Did you notice anybody in her apartment? And he repeated again. He said, I told you I wasn't looking in any condos. I was looking at her on the ground. So he was keen, like I said, he was keen to the fact that they were trying to trip him up, because had he said, yeah, I saw her front door open, well, they would have said, well, I thought you weren't in her house.
But then it goes back to the prosecutor again, the incompetence of all of this that happened, the incompetence of how they proceeded with the case, how they investigated, how they, even though this guy said I was high on some drugs or whatever.
Mushrooms.
They still didn't, yeah, and weed. They never investigated him. That's crazy. So now they don't even have that opportunity anymore, because I'm sure that everything in that house is clean. Go ahead, Attorney Matt.
Oh, no, I'm gonna let y'all finish talking. Go ahead.
I'll tell you something. I don't blame him for lying to the police officer based on what I saw in their interrogation, the way they treated him. And I'll tell you something else. He was pointed in his testimony when he told the jury, yeah, I lied to them because they were lying to me. They were saying they had evidence that I was in her house. And the officer who interrogated him took the stand and admitted, yeah, he lied to him about that. And the defense attorney said, okay, so it's okay for you to lie to try to extract a bogus confession from my client, but he can't lie to you. And Mr. Bolanos testified, yeah, I wasn't going to admit I touched her at that point because they already had their mind made up. I killed her. And had I told them I touched her, do you think that would have mattered? No. They would have been like, okay, we're putting the cuffs on you. You're charged.
They would have threw a knife on him.
I don't blame him for not admitting at that point that he touched her. He didn't have a lawyer in that room, and you got this officer already insisting you did it. We got evidence you were in that apartment.
Right.
The other thing I want to say, yeah, he was convicted of lying to a police officer because that's more like a strict liability crime. I think at that, the jury doesn't have to care about the defendant's motive in lying is irrelevant, even though he had a good motive. Yeah, I understand he was going to be found guilty of that. That's a 2-year misdemeanor. They found him not guilty of first-degree murder, and they couldn't decide on the felony murder charge. And the difference is they're both life penalties. First-degree murder only requires premeditation and deliberation. Felony murder is they have to prove that he committed a larceny. That's another problem. None of her valuables were missing. Her money, her wallet, laptop, nothing. It just makes no sense. It just makes no sense that he's admittedly in this area committing petty theft out of vehicles, that he would escalate it to kill this unknown woman he had no motive to kill and go in there and kill her and stab her 8 times and not take anything. When your whole theory is it was because he was committing a larceny. Well, where's the larceny? These are questions I'm asking because, believe me, those are questions the jury had in that deliberation room. And Kim Worthy, if she wants to recharge him, she's a fool, because she's going to get another mistrial or even a not guilty verdict. There's problems with the evidence in this case. There's problems with their theory. There's problems with this ex-boyfriend. You're going to want another jury to put this out of their mind that this man came in and confessed, and you want to blame it on some damn mushrooms? Who are you kidding?
That's right. And psychologically, and Attorney Mac, let me know, in cases that involve a knife, and you too, Abdul, a lot of times those are passionate crimes. Am I not mistaken?
Yes.
Crimes of passion.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another problem. There was a shoe print in the victim's home that didn't match Mr. Bolanos, and the prosecutor objected strenuously to the defense bringing that out. Well, no, I'm going to bring it out because the police did a sloppy investigation, if you will. They should have, what police officer would not test that bloody footprint against Mr. Bolanos if you think he did it? That's another thing the jury had a problem with. This was a sloppy investigation. It was a rush to charge him because I'll tell you why. They got all this video camera and his cell phone that puts him in the area. So damn what? I could have been walking around there. Does that mean I killed her? If an alarm is going off and I'm walking in front of the building, you're going to say, "Oh, he did it." That was all their evidence. They can wave the videos around all they want. Evidently, it didn't do any good because they didn't get a guilty verdict. And I think that jury was more used more common sense than the prosecutor did to know that, wait a minute, you want me to convict this man just because he's in the area? We can't do that. You still didn't put him in her house. Those are all theories, but you got to have evidence to back your theory. Yeah, you got 2 specks of blood on the sleeve of the jacket, but how come you don't have all this blood on this man in front of him and on his shoes for a murder that was set where the victim was killed 8 times with a knife?
Yeah.
And she thinks
that is amazing, because when you talk about, and I don't know why they didn't bring this up, because when you talk about stabbings, there's usually an emotional trigger, right? It's usually in the context of a personal relationship where emotional conflicts have escalated into a violent confrontation. It's usually an impulsive behavior. Stabbings often involve a level of spontaneity, and they're characteristic of crimes of passion. And stabbings are associated usually with domestic violence, classified as crimes of passion. The proximity and emotional connection between the victim and the perpetrator in domestic settings can lead to violent outbursts resulting in stabbings. And psychological factors. Studies have shown that individuals who commit crimes of passion, including stabbings, often do so under extreme psychological distress. So why they did not even
the video of the boyfriend, he looked like he was under psychological distress when they came.
I think he fooled them. I think he did do it, and I think he was clever.
Yeah, he's the mastermind.
That's the murderer.
I think they got to open that back up.
But they done gave him immunity. They can't. What
I don't see how he gets. I don't see. You know what? It just seems crazy to me lately. People are getting immunity that don't deserve it at all, and the people that do deserve the immunity still behind bars. Lord, help us all. Help us.
I would hope that Kim Worthy's supposed to decide. There's a pre-hearing coming up next Wednesday. That she realizes all the problems with their theory and their evidence in this case, especially now that he testified, and the fact that, again, the videos don't show him drenched in blood after the murder allegedly happened. I would hope that she will have a meeting with the family and say, look, I can't get a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. And they need to dismiss the charges. They need to dismiss the charges. I don't care. You want to do it without prejudice to satisfy you. You want to get your ego on, go ahead. But you got to let this man go.
Yeah.
All right,
and the family should want the right person. The family should want the real person to be accountable.
Oh no, they were the 13th juror yesterday. They were talking about how, which I expected that. Look, what happened to the lady, to the victim? It was terrible.
It was horrific. Yeah.
And if somebody should pay for that, but an innocent man should not pay for it just because you want to be satisfied. That and what about Dana Nessel? The minute charges were filed, the comment she made that he was already guilty. If you read between the lines, the family can now get justice or something. She said, a jury hasn't even sat yet, and you already convicted the man.
Politicians shouldn't even be making remarks like that. Everything is so political, politicians to get their mouths involved in stuff just to get a vote,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was personal friends with Miss Wall.
Yeah, they were good friends.
Dana Nessel should have kept her mouth shut because, as the highest law enforcement officer of the state, she was piercing the veil of, well, they say, piercing the veil of, impartiality or whatever, but she just should not have made that comment. Because the victim was your friend.
Mm-hmm.
This man has a right to a fair trial on these public statements.
Yeah.
And plus everybody's running with this. Oh, there's 2 specks of blood. He did it.
Mm-hmm.
Look, there's just not enough. There has to be more. what I've been saying since day one at the preliminary examination, before the preliminary examination, when they first reported this on the news, and they said, "Oh, there's, the police confiscated his jacket, and there were, 2 specks of blood on the sleeve, and that's why they filed charges." DNA doesn't scare me. I mean, it doesn't scare. It does, but it doesn't. Not in this. If you put forth the best defense, and obviously it worked for some of the jurors here because hey, you don't just surrender because there's blood, there's semen, there's DNA on there. I mean, they didn't surrender even in O.J. Simpson's case. They planted the glove and stuff with blood there. You don't think police are still doing dirty work and doing? I don't know. Yeah. Hey, I'm not saying they planted the blood on Mr. Jackson Bolanos, but I'm saying he gave a sensible explanation for it, and the prosecutor has mud on her face. Yeah. And she just needs to drop the charges. But the problem is they don't want. You know what her ego is? No, because there's blood on him, lady. That's not blood. He wasn't drenched in blood. Why are you doing this? Look, there were 2 drops on his sleeve. Okay. He's still innocent.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
Attorney Mack.
Y'all through?
Yeah.
What is that?
I'm ready for you, Matt.
I told you they would be hung.
No, Abdul. You seem to got a lot to say, brother. I want you to get it all out. And anything else you want to say, Abdul? Anything else you want to say? You seem to have a lot to say. Anything else you want to say? Okay.
I'll rebuttal.
Oh yeah. No. Well, no. Ain't no rebuttal because you use up everybody's time. Okay. Okay. So I just want to be sure everybody else good now. Everybody good? Okay.
Good. We're good. We want to hear.
Okay. Fine. Okay. First of all,
Amithia gets a front seat. Go ahead, Attorney Mack. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, and look, y'all remember where Cuppies is because you're gonna be buying my dinner. Okay. So. Okay, Abdul, I especially want you there, Abdul. I want you there so I can order me another side of fried green tomatoes, and you're gonna pay for them personally. Okay.
You don't like plantains? I think those are hard.
Look.
We're gonna have the prosecutor buy our lunch.
Well, okay. Now remember, you're talking to a man that ran for prosecutor in this county. You got to remember that.
I think you would have been one of those progressives.
Okay, so
it would have been fair.
Yeah. Well,
and that's the reason
you're right.
You didn't win because you're on the good side now.
Well, thank you, brother. That's true. I appreciate that. But that's kind, but it really don't change nothing what I'm about to say. So okay. So look, I love y'all. So look, the fact that they acquitted on that first degree, Abdul is quite right. Felony murder carries the same punishment as first degree. Okay, so that was a throwaway decision. Okay, in other words, that didn't help the defendant. Okay, it helped the defendant in that it gives people an opportunity to say, well, he was acquitted of something. Okay, which is true. But if he goes down on felony murder, he's going to be treated exactly the same. Okay, so it's like a choice. Well, the man wasn't shot in the head by a 44; he was shot in the head by a 38. In the end, it really doesn't make any difference. Okay, so the fact that there's a hung jury, okay, you need to understand something. A hung jury is not an exoneration.
No,
a hung jury is really nothing to celebrate. The only celebration could come at a not guilty verdict. Okay, so you need to understand. Oh, by the way, was there a breakdown of what jurors voted? I didn't catch that part of the news report.
They haven't yet.
They haven't did it yet.
The judge attorneys and the prosecutors interviewed the jurors back there before.
Okay. Yeah. See, because I would really like to see what the breakdown was.
Me too.
I really would like to see what the breakdown was. And so if the breakdown was like, 5-7 or 6-6 or whatever, okay,
probably recharge. Mm-hmm.
That is cause if I'm the Wayne County prosecutor, if the breakdown is like that, I'm giving serious question as to whether or not I'm going to bring that charge again. Okay, I'm bringing serious question. But remember now, you only need one juror to have a hung jury. You got to remember that. You got to remember that. So once upon a time, Henry Fonda was in a movie called 12 Angry Men. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that movie. Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. And so, that's where they were all saying this person is guilty. But there was one man who said, no, wait a minute now, and started deconstructing the evidence. Okay. And at the end of that, the verdict was not guilty. So what I'm saying is that when they said not guilty of of first degree murder, but hung up on the rest, as an attorney, that's not a great sign for the defendant. See, because if the theory is, look, this man is not guilty, period. All right. He was just in a wrong place at a wrong time. Okay. And that's what he's basically saying. I lied to the cops because the cops were lying to me. So the issue is, in my humble opinion, is that the felony murder has got to be predicated on a felony. Okay. On a felony. Okay. So is it home invasion? Is that?
It's predicated on a home invasion, and
right.
So they couldn't charge him with that because there was no home invasion.
Right. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that if the issue was, wait a minute, have they shown?
I'm sorry for interrupting you. They were deadlocked on the home invasion and the felony murder.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Home invasion is the underlying felony.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Okay, because obviously somebody had an issue of, has there actually been a home invasion beyond a reasonable doubt? Because if they're deadlocked on the home invasion, they're going to be deadlocked on the felony murder. Exactly. Okay, and in my opinion, that is exactly what happened. So the linchpin of this whole thing, and I believe it will be a retrial. The linchpin of this whole thing is, will the prosecutor be able to show a home invasion? Okay, that's a linchpin, because if they show a home invasion, he's going to go down on felony murder. If they cannot show home invasion, he's going to be acquitted across the board.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
can I say this, Attorney Matt?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Can I say something?
Sure.
If they say there's nothing stolen in the house or taken out of the house, and they don't have any physical evidence to tie him or being in that house, how can you put a home invasion on somebody?
Well, okay, but remember now, people are convicted of circumstance all the time.
Right.
You don't have to have a confession. You don't have to have dripping blood on a person. You don't have to have 5 people saying we saw him running out the house with a woman's flat screen. You don't have to have that. Circumstance can put you in a penitentiary. Okay. Circumstance can put you in a penitentiary. Now, it's very clear that man's testimony had an impact on somebody on that jury, on somebody, because it could have happened this way. But remember, the fact that they were deadlocked, that man did not have an audience that is all in favor of him. Y'all remember that. And we don't know what the ratio was. See, we don't know. Right. So what I'm listening to here, if I can ever find out, y'all can tell me, what's the breakdown of the deadlock? What is it?
Yeah, I can only assume, because they were deadlocked for 4 days, that it had to be more than one juror, because that was a bad deadlock. Usually if it's one juror, they can break that deadlock and get a unanimous verdict. So that tells me there were at least 2, if not more. It would be, and you know what? It's funny because what you mentioned, Brother Hugo, another legal commentator mentioned that's going to be a factor in the prosecutor's decision whether she decides to retry him. She will be interested in knowing what was the composition of the breakdown. Was it split down the middle? Was it just one holdout? Was it 11 for guilty and one not guilty? She probably will retry him. If it was split down the middle, she's got a problem too. Like, okay, well, that's a bad fractured deadlock.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And
right.
then- And what about how come he's a good witness? He's a good advocate for himself.
She will factor all of that. How he testified. I mean, if you watch his cross exam and his direct exam, I think the jury was satisfied, even though he had a right to remain silent. They wanted to hear from him. They wanted at least to hear from him about the source of the specks, those 2 specks of blood of the victim on his sleeve. But what Hugo said just struck me that I think that's a good point that you made. They were deadlocked on the home invasion because they could not prove, and the prosecutor pretty much conceded this. They have no evidence he went inside her house. And keep in mind, when he was on direct exam, like I said earlier, he was keen to some of the questions they were asking him. This guy was sharp. He was ready for it. He was keen to the fact they were trying to trip him up to say something that would put him in that woman's house. He didn't. And his answers were very good answers.
Okay, but
home invasion, so they couldn't convict on the felony murder.
Well, right. But now keep this in mind now. Keep this in mind now. The prosecutor now knows where this guy is coming from. Okay. The prosecutor now knows what his style is. Okay. So that's a powerful weapon in Kim Worthy's arsenal. Okay. She knows, because you better believe if there's a retrial, he's going to testify again. Okay. He will testify. He has to now. He has to, because people are going to want to know when somebody's life is taken. And y'all listen to me carefully. When somebody's life is taken, people want to hear somebody say, I didn't do it.
Right.
Okay. So the fact that he took that witness stand may well have saved him from going to prison for the rest of his life. Okay. So
I haven't seen Hugo. I haven't in recent memory seen a defendant testify so well as this young man did, and he's only 29 years old. And I think I will credit some of that to his attorneys. He had 2 attorneys, and Brian Brown. I watched that man. Man, he's phenomenal. He was just sharp on his feet. He knew how to poke holes at the prosecution's theory. He did a very phenomenal job in closing argument. But this defendant, the way he testified for a 29-year-old, I was kind of concerned when I heard he was going to testify. I was like, oh, is that a good idea? Because sometimes you can shoot yourself and do yourself more harm by getting up there to testify. Especially if you've got a lot of skeletons in your background, like crimes of false, history. Well, they can't introduce any crime against you. It has to involve dishonesty or false statements.
Yeah.
I think his attorney did a good job in weighing the pros and cons and said, you know what? I know you have a right to remain silent, but if he hadn't gotten up there, he probably would have been convicted, because jurors would have given undue weight to the specks of blood on that slip.
Right. And see, let me just say this final point. Regardless of what jurors tell you in voir dire, okay, about deciding the case under the law and leaving prejudice outside the courtroom and all that, that's a fallacy. That is not true. That is not true.
They will say
those prejudices go right with them into that jury room. And see, so for being a criminal defense attorney for all these decades, that is something that the defense attorney has got to challenge up front. I'm just talking about myself personally. I have a history of being confrontational with jurors, a history. Okay. because I want them to know before we get too far down the road. I don't say it this way because I don't want my ass to end up in contempt of court. I find a way to let them know I can kick you off this jury right now without a reason. Right. Okay. So if it gets to be a power dynamic and you say, well, yeah, I fooled him. Yeah, you know, I got on here. I really shouldn't have. You know, I challenge the jurors on that all the time. If you were dishonest, it's not too late to redeem yourself. Call the fair game. You can redeem yourself, even though you know damn well you have no business being on this jury. You know, you can still redeem yourself. So what I'm saying is you've got to remember that man did not score a clean sweep in that jury. There were some people that felt he's guilty, absolutely guilty. And that's what Kim Worthy is going to try to focus on, what that's breakdown was and how do we shore up the case. The advantage she has, the defendant can't shore up his case anymore. He can't testify any more than what he did on that day and time and try to raise it. But Kim Worthy's got a chance to try to shore up her investigation or what have you before the rematch. And I think there's going to be a rematch.
And I think also what else he has going for him, Attorney Matt, is his visuals. He came to court looking good. He had he was clean. He was clean. That's important. People don't think that's important, but that's important. Absolutely. He didn't come in looking like he was a thief.
Right.
He came in looking really dressed. He was well versed.
Right.
So, and people, that's another thing that people look at as well.
Absolutely. But I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna be quiet. You got to remember, folks, at the end of the day, somebody is dead. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody, and not just a quick death, a terrible, horrible stabbing death. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you know, human nature is going to be somebody's got to be held to account. And unfortunately for this young man, if he's innocent, he's the only one they're looking at. Okay. Right. So when that jury, if they say acquittal of him, okay, and if he's not guilty or whatever, then good it should be. But there's going to be somebody killed this woman, you know.
Right. Well, he's in Kalamazoo.
Right.
Okay. Could be. Yeah.
He probably smoking weed and mushrooms right now.
Yeah, he's gonna confess that he raped somebody tomorrow, but I didn't do it.
Yeah, no.
But James, to your point that you made earlier, I thought when I watched him testify, I was impressed that he was well composed, he was well dressed, and he another good thing I will tell you he didn't do, which we always tell clients don't do. He didn't argue with the prosecutor. He didn't argue with the prosecutor. A jury would dislike you if they think you're the reason why this thing is dragging on, and if you start to get argumentative, they see that as, oh, he's being defensive. Maybe he did do it. This you could tell he was prepped very well, which is nothing wrong with that. Attorneys have a job to prep their client. That's their client. The other thing I want to mention, a lot of law firms use what is called jury consultants. And they're experts, and they help you pick a jury. They tell you this is the kind of jury you want to avoid for this kind of case, or this is the kind of juror you want for this kind of case, and this is how you want your client to be prepped to impress this jury. So there was a lot of prep in this case, and I commend the defense for a very good job what they did. They couldn't get a not guilty, but it's a no-win for both sides, really. Kim Worthy thought she was going to get a guilty. The defense thought they were going to get not guilty. It's a no-win situation for both sides.
Right. And then other thing, Mr. Abdul, you talk about how he was, his demeanor. Look at the ex-boyfriend demeanor, who had immunity. He was the opposite. He wasn't like confident. Like he should have been like the young gentleman, you got immunity, you got away with it because you was on mushrooms, or whatever the case. And it seemed like he would have been more, like the Michael Jackson.
He was, dude. I'm glad you brought that up, because I watched his testimony also. He was shifty-eyed. He looked down a lot. If you go back and look at it, it's all on Google. You go back and watch the testimony. He wouldn't look the jury straight in the face. Mr. Bolanos at times glanced over there to the jurors. Believe me, that eye contact is important. It is.
Mhm.
And I think the jury saw that in the ex-boyfriend too. Like, wow, he was looking down, testifying like this a lot. He wouldn't even give the attorney's eye contact a lot. When you're shifty-eyed, that's a sign that you're lying or that you can't give eye contact. Come on, that's human nature, right? If you can't look me in my eye and talk to me, I start to have problems. Well, I don't know whether I believe you, but yeah. When you look at how the defendant testified, like I said, he was confident. He didn't stumble on his testimony. He wasn't stuttering. He was well composed. He did a good job.
I hope that Kim Worthy can seek to give real justice this time. I don't know. I keep praying for her because to me it's easier for me to think that boyfriend should be investigated. First of all, ex-boyfriend, yes. I mean, there's no reason why they should have just ignored that. He should have been first to get thoroughly investigated. And I think that they're doing the community a disservice, allowing him to go free and not even see if he was the person. Because to me, he's not able to look authority in the eyes and really have a conversation, and all the other truths about a stabbing that they are completely ignoring. And I wonder, why are they ignoring this on purpose? I mean, why would they? What's the benefit? What is the benefit to ignore this on purpose and give this man a pass for murder?
Well, I can answer that, Rabbit, to you, because once they zero in on you as the person, as you're the suspect, then they're going to use all their resources to make it you. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
They're not going to look at somebody else.
Justice.
That's how they operate.
That's what they did.
That's not justice.
And that's what they did to Devontae Sanford.
Yeah.
He walked up on the scene, a curious onlooker, and they took him into custody. And once they charge you, they're too arrogant, too prideful to admit they made a mistake and let you go. It takes a lot. But that's the same thing they did to Devontae as they did in this man's case, except in this man's case, they had technology that put him, they had cameras and cell phone technology that put him in the area. Devontae Sanford walked up to the scene, a 14-year-old innocent kid, a curious onlooker, and he just wanted to know what's all this police activity was. They took him in the house. They let him contaminate the crime scene while the bodies were in there. And they did so many things wrong and got him to give a bogus confession, and it was hell from that point. But to answer your question, it's their arrogance. It's a powerful arrogance that they don't want to admit wrongdoing. They don't want to admit a mistake. And how hard is that? It's not hard at all. But what's getting ready to happen? This was a month-long trial. Can you just start to imagine how much it cost?
Yeah, and to put the family through that again, that's hard too, because they have to relive it again for a third time. The first time the initial thing, then this trial, then to put them through this, and then still may or may not have no resolve. That has to be very traumatic for that family. And we're not saying she deserves justice, but
absolutely.
The right person.
The right
should be the right person.
And she's not.
Where you guys? Oh, go ahead.
She's not going to get justice if this man is convicted.
Right.
And I'm willing to make another bet now. Right. I think it's another hung jury, and then or It would surprise me, but I would be pleasantly surprised if next week she decides. I think that's going to be too soon. I think she's going to buy time. She's probably going to, at the pre-trial next week, she's going to say, well, we're still in deliberations whether we want to decide to recharge, give us another 30 days or 60 days. It'd be nice if she drops the charges.
Yeah, and by the way, you should understand there is no statutory or court decision that says X amount of retrials is prohibited under the Constitution. Okay, that the court has got the authority to say that you're subjecting this person to undue threat of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness because you keep retrying them. Okay, see, that's one step better than the old English system, and I'm sure you all know this. In England, if the king's ministers, his prosecutors, if they tried you and you were found not guilty, they just try you again. See, because the sovereign could do no wrong. So the theory was the sovereign wasn't wrong for charging you; that jury was wrong for acquitting you. Okay. Yeah. So now, so if he is tried again, and it's a hung jury, whatever, I think he's got an excellent base for saying, Judge, don't let this go any further because now they're violating my civil rights, my constitutional rights, because nobody has got the power to compete money for money with the state, unless you're maybe a billionaire. Okay. You know, O.J. Simpson had the money to compete with the state. Okay. But I doubt this young man does, unless he's got, you know, so another hung jury is no more charges, but I think it'll go again.
All right, you guys. Well, we're over our time.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
But this was a great conversation. We're going to continue next week with our conversation on Project 2025 and Agenda 47. Thank you, Armithia.
Yes, sister, thank you. Thank you. From the Cope O'Brien Center. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Did you get that? Did you get the picture I sent you?
No, Reverend T, I never got it.
It's in the email. It's in your email.
Okay.
I was going to show her picture of when she was arrested. We can show it next week, though, if you want.
Oh, man.
There's two cops on each side of me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, that shows it's legit.
Yeah.
That picture is legit.
Well, people get arrested in this country for all kinds of stuff, but we just consider, you know.
Right.
Well, it was an arrest for good cause.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we got to. I keep forgetting about what Jay is talking about, getting out and voting, particularly locally, because we don't know what's to come with things like 2025 project. So
hey, look,
I heard.
Go ahead,
Sonny Mac. Go ahead.
Look, y'all. Get off the criticism of the mushroom and the marijuana thing, okay? Look here. It got me through first year towards the contracts. So get up off of that. Get up off of that. Okay.
I just want to know what planet those mushrooms came from. We're being invaded by mushrooms.
They have so many positive benefits for mushrooms, but there are some negative. The only negatives are you get some anxiety, paranoia, nausea, confusion.
But I never knew they would make somebody
admitting to a murder.
Yeah,
right.
But I just want to say one thing. You know what? A psychopath can look you in the eye and lie because they don't feel what
That's
true.
That's true.
Narcissistic psychopath, and I want you to think of, we got one running in for office now. A narcissistic psychopath can lie and not wink.
That's right. And by the way, and pass a polygraph too, I might add.
Right. So,
no conscience, whatever. No conscience.
They're not human. It's just
wow.
Yeah. No conscience.
Well, you guys, this was a great conversation.
Thank all of you.
Amithia, I'm so glad that you joined us tonight. And Mr.
Yeah.
Abdul,
Thank you.
of course, you could pop in whenever. Reverend
Give my
Ted,
daughter
Attorney
a pause because she helped me do this.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay.
To Amithia's
Thank
daughter who
Lori.
was on.
Yeah, she set all this up for me. Okay.
Thank you
Beautiful.
so much, you guys.
Okay,
So
thank you.
we'll be back next week. And thank you guys for joining us tonight. And yeah, see you next week.
Hey, God
Yeah.
bless y'all. Stay safe.
God bless you.